The Earnestly Speaking podcast is a show that is founded on free-flowing conversation and may at times venture into mature subjects. Listener discretion is advised.
Yeah, Earnestly Speaking podcast. Let's get it. I'm a giant in New York, in Miami carry heat. So much more in store, my product can flood the street. Opinion Nation Godfather, CEO. Puff in the late 90s, gon' see me blow. Oh, got my hustle on, no imitation of bad. Army of untouchables, Opinion Nation staff. Never an off season, homie, check the numbers. Heart throb in my own right, supplying southern comfort. Earnestly speaking, my ego is well fed. Earnestly speaking, you're too feeble and no threat. See, I'm like a hurricane, you're a mild breeze. Earnestly speaking, leaving Eli a dynasty. Shake!
Podcast coming to you. Record this Tuesday, August 12th, 2025 at 11. A little after 11 p.m. here. Late night podcast for me. I did not plan on recording tonight, I have to be honest with you. So remember I told you guys I was on a little bit of a hiatus. And I came back last week and did two pods last week and kind of ended that. Then I decided, you know what, I might actually take another week off, and I was about to do that, and then I kind of got the creative juices flowing again. And one of these things I've noticed too with me, especially recently, is that when I have stuff in my head when I get out, it actually affects the way I sleep. Seriously, it's really bad. Like, there's been some nights in recent weeks where, like, I have all these thoughts in my head I want to get out, this creative things I want to talk about, whether it has to do with this show or any other of the platforms and products I'm involved in. So much to the point where it affects my sleep. So tonight, I had every intention of not recording this show tonight. And then the last hour, I realized I had a lot of stuff on my docket, because what I do normally with these shows, especially my solo shows, is I'll pile up topics I see and hear and whatnot. I'll put it like in my notepad, and I'll just put it for notes for stuff to use for later. And then when I start deciding to do a show, like when it was on Tuesday or Thursday or the weekend, I'll pick and choose the things I've saved, of topics I've saved or thoughts I have, and whether or not I decide to use them or not. And I realized I had a couple of things piled up over the weekend, and I just really want to get off my chest. And it really hit me this evening that, you know what, I want to do this now. And I don't want to go too long tonight, because I want to get some rest. Obviously I'm trying to take these into August before we get to the real grind in September when football comes back. Also realized too, you see the title of today's episode. This month is actually the 14-year anniversary of the show. Obviously the show was under a different name back in 2011. So many good times when I started the podcast. I just bought a book. I was learning all about that situation, how to record, what apps to use, equipment, and back then I wasn't using a mic. Back then I just used a computer and spoke into it, learning how the whole thing goes. And I remember it was so innocent back then. And to think that 14 years later, this has become such an integral part of my life now, this show. And you've gone through this ride with me. Some of you guys have been on this ride for all 14 years. Some of you guys might have just jumped on at any point in the 14 years. But through these years, I was married when I started the show. I was already married a few months in, but I became a parent two times. I've gone through different, family things and different things with friends and sports and politics and all these things that I talk about. Met people in this show, and we've gone through the gamut of and all this stuff, and it's been a blessing in my life to have this show, and I can't live without it. Next year is 15 years. I had some plans, initially that I want to do for the 15th anniversary of the show. I don't know if I'm going to do those plans anymore, because it takes a lot of work, and I don't have time for that. And in fact, this show alone, because for me to do the things I want to do for the 15th anniversary, it actually required me slowing down on recording content. I don't want to do that. I enjoy recording the content. Whether it's this show, whether it's the False Count Anywhere stuff, whether it's the retro stuff we do, the Music Lounge now, whether it's like doing Hello podcasts with my friends on that side of the world, or doing the weekly show I do at my day job. I love recording content, and if it's requiring me to slow down, I'm not going to do that. I won't pick and choose the things I do going forward. I'm cognizant of the fact that time is now up, that I have to be more aware of. How much time do you think I do? Also have kids who are getting older. I have a son who's going to be a teenager. They require my time also too. There's more activities now, and by the way, school's back now. That's this week. School's returned, and I'm putting a lot more time into my kids, even more so now. I got my youngest son who's in the gifted program. My oldest son has 2 more years in middle school before he goes to high school. So there's a lot going on here at home, and to balance all that and still be a husband to my wife, who I love very much. So yes, we can still do the content, but we have to be very careful how much time I put into it and projects I take on, because I have a habit of like just taking on any project and then not realizing that I might have time to do that. So, but because I'm back to school this week, it's been I can't say it's been smooth, because honestly, 10 weeks of summertime went very fast, number one, but 10 weeks of summertime also means that I am out of rhythm again. I'm out of routine, and I need to get back to routine. Because I'm the one who takes the kids to school every day. I leave the house at 7:30, 7:45, take them to school. Not a problem. But what happens is that when they're home from school, I don't wake up as early. I get an extra hour of sleep now every day. Well, I've now lost that now since school is back, which is not a big deal. But when you get my age now, every minute, every hour, every second, you name it, is valuable. So if it's an extra hour I'm losing on the back end, that means I need to go sleep early on the front end. You know what I mean? So it's one of those things where you adjust to it. You just do it. Like I said, rest is important for me, obviously. But these things are things that are very, very critical of how, and with my family too, without schedule, especially routine is a big, big, big deal. Because again, as you guys know, the couple of days I do not see each other. Like tonight, for example, she works a double, and then tomorrow we do opposite schedules. So I don't see her again until Thursday night. I may see her in passing here and maybe an hour or two here, but in terms of time spent, I don't see her until Thursday night. So it's critical that the routines stay in place and they're back to where they need to be. So the first 2 days has been a little rough, with the sleep schedules. With I was dragging us out of bed this morning, coming to school. I was like, oh my god, 7:30 in the morning. Oh my god. So, but we'll get there. We will definitely get there. All right. As for sports stuff here, we are 1 week into the NFL preseason. Not a lot to talk about there. I'm not a big NFL preseason guy necessarily, but there's been some cool stories to talk about, mainly about with the quarterbacks. Obviously Shedeur Sanders and the Browns, and he debuted his NFL debut on I think it was Friday. He looked pretty decent, actually. No word of if he's gonna. Well, they're saying the Browns are saying that the quarterback depth chart still remains the same. He's number 4, I believe, in the depth chart. That doesn't mean that he won't be the starter in week 1. Although I do think that most likely Joe Flacco will be the starter for the Browns. But Shedeur Sanders had a very decent debut. I thought the media overblew it a little bit too much. I actually watched all of his snaps. I thought he was solid. I thought the thing that stood out for me with Shedeur was his footwork and his pocket presence. That he was very, very aware of the pressure coming to him. He has a couple overthrows here and there, but again, he's a rookie, so that's going to come into the territory and adjust to the speed of the game. But you saw some positive things for Shedeur Sanders that you can build upon moving forward. So, look, do I make him a star week 1? No. Do I make him the backup? Probably. Is he? And I'll say again, for all the talk about how low he got drafted, give me all the hype. He's still in the best situation, because if this is probably the best situation where you have a chance of really winning a starting job, because come on, look at the depth chart. It's Joe Flacco, who's 75 years old. It's Kenny Pickett, who's, come on now. And then there's also who's the other guy there? Dylan Gabriel, who I would be shocked if he's on the roster, by the end of preseason here, to be honest with you. So Shedeur Sanders has a golden opportunity to really, really snatch a starting job. So if this continues, then maybe you've seen this guy starting games by week 4. I do think that the easy route here for the Browns is to start start Joel Flacco rather, and go from there. Then you have to also, on my end as a Giant fan, Jackson Dart, who had in my opinion, very impressive. I would dare say, not even to sound like a homer here, I would dare say an even more impressive start than Shedeur Sanders. Now he didn't start though, but he played most of the game against Buffalo. He was very sharp. He made some really good throws. Again, as a rookie, so he's gonna have some overthrows here and there and bailouts here and there. But when I look at quarterbacks and young quarterbacks, to me, it comes down to looking the part. Do you look the part of a quarterback? Even if you're a rookie, could you look someone that can grow into this role? And I will say Shedeur and Jackson Dart, at least for this one game, both passed that test. They both did. So there is that. All right. What else on the docket here to talk about here? It has been a miserable summer for baseball in New York. Now tonight the Mets didn't win, blew out the Braves 12-5. But again, it was so bad. You know how bad the Mets are right now. Have been in the last month and a half, 2 months. 12-5. I watched the game. They're up 12-5, and I'm still worried that they may lose the game because they've blown so many leads. In this Milwaukee series this weekend alone, they got swept. But all 3 games they had a lead. 2 of the games they had double digits. They had multiple score leads. They're up 5-0 on Sunday to at least, avoid getting swept, and then they lose that game. So it's been bad. It's been a bad summer for the Mets. It's been a bad summer for the Mets baseball overall. They're now They're now like 4 back of the in the wild card. No, they're still in the wild card, but 4 back of the NL East. I think Philadelphia is going to take the East now. And now they're only a game and a half ahead of Cincinnati in the wild card. The Mets are playing with fire here. The pitching is falling apart, and this is exactly what I was worried about. And this is with Juan Soto playing better baseball. He's hitting dingers again. Although Juan Soto now is pretty much hit or miss. He's either going to hit your home run or strike out. Too many blown games here. This Mets team is, look, you still have the rest of August and you have September. My God, please turn it around for the love of God. But at least as a Yankee hater like myself, they are also struggling too. They are struggling too, and they may actually miss the playoffs themselves if they are not careful. So New York baseball has been really shitty. It has been really shitty this summer, but there's a lot of time for both teams to turn around. It's a lot of time for turning around. So we'll see what happens there with the Mets and the Yankees. I will see how that plays out moving forward. All right. Finally, last thing before I get out of here, something a little controversial here on this end. So you guys remember Dave Justice? Dave Justice was a really good baseball player. He's not a Hall of Famer, I believe, but he played for the Atlanta Braves back in the 90s. A couple teams, but mainly the Braves in the 90s, those World Series teams, those World Series and National League Championship teams. Now, he was married to Halle Berry back in 1993. He did an interview on All Small Park podcast with Matt Barnes and Steven Jackson, a show I do listen to from time to time. And he had some very intriguing comments or quotes as to why, because he was asked why his marriage with Halle Berry did not work out. He recently spoke on the show. They were married in 93, divorced in 1997. Justice said that his expectations for a traditional life. Let me start again. Justice said that his expectations for a traditional life, which was shaped by his upbringing, contributed to the end of their marriage. He recalled thinking that a wife should cook and clean and have strong maternal instincts. He said he did not see those traits in Berry at the time and began to question if he wanted to have children with her. He also mentioned that their demanding work schedules with Berry filming in different countries kept them apart for long periods. Looking back, Justice believes that if they had known about therapy, they probably could have made it. He also addressed the long-standing rumor that he was the unnamed ex who who allegedly abused Berry, a claim that he has denied for years. He mentioned that Berry had thanked them on Twitter in 2015 for squashing the rumors, though she did not name him directly. Justice also said that Berry was the one who proposed to him after they had known each other for only 5 months. He said he agreed, but was unsure if his heart was fully in it, suggesting the decision was rushed due to his youth and inexperience. I actually admire the transparency of Dave Justice here. People are taking away the fact that, oh, what a misogynist, that this didn't work because he wanted a wife that wouldn't cook and clean. Folks, it's okay for people to have their own expectations if they want to have it. It's okay. It's not a bad thing. I think him being transparent here was a positive, honestly. It was a positive. And furthermore, I mean, Halle Berry, at that time in the mid-90s, she was red hot. She was arguably one of, if not the biggest female in entertainment. She was very popular at this point. She was running good at that point. So the cook and clean thing, I see what people are offended by that. But again, even women have expectations for their men. If men have expectations for the women, they want to see when they marry, or things that they want to see in a marriage, that shouldn't be a bad thing. I took this with context. Like, when you hear the quote itself by itself without any context, it looks like, oh, Dave Justice is the misogynist. But I read this and I'm like, no, that's not terrible, actually. Like if there's a woman, you have expectations as a man that you want to have your future wife to be someone who could at least know how to cook and clean to some degree, that's not a bad thing necessarily either. You know, there's some women who prefer their men to be masculine and know how to fix things also too. So we can play that both ways as well too. I didn't find what he said with the entire context misogynist at all. I really didn't. So, you know, kudos to Dave Justice to be honest with it. Could they have made it? I don't know. When you have two celebrities, one's an athlete, and at the time Dave Justice was pretty popular. You know, Halle Berry was a red hot actress, you know, at the time. Maybe the timing was off. Who knows? I actually love the fact that he also mentioned therapy, and that had he known therapy was a thing, you know, or known about it, they could have made it. Because I'll be honest with you, I think therapy is a good thing. People look at therapy as like this, especially if you're a male or a black male, for that rather. If you do therapy, that it's that you're a wuss or you're you know, all this. I'm like, get the fuck out of here. That's misogynist talk there. That bullshit is what I push back on. So I do like what he said here. I think for the most part, I wasn't offended with what he said at all. It wasn't. You know, now if he had said that he demanded that, then that's different. But he didn't say that. He just wished that his wife had certain things that he wished he would have done. That's all. You know, there's some women who don't want to be parents, who don't want to have kids. And that's okay too. But you have to know what you want going into the situation. That's all. I have no problem with what you said there, not whatsoever. So, all right, that's it for me. Short pod here. Again, dated August 12th, 2025. I'm on X at EJ Christian 7. Wrestling podcast. I had a pod today. But okay, I want to get this off my chest. Anyway, we will talk soon. As soon as I get this off here. There we go. Earnestly Pod on TikTok, on Instagram, of course, the YouTube page, of course, more importantly, at Earnestly Pod. We'll try to get 500 subscribers soon. Until next episode, we'll talk soon. Love